Okay, Jim Fearn, guide fly fishing. Bit of a casting master as well, I believe, and fly fishing guide, salmon fishing mainly.
Yeah.
We've got two lines here. I can see straight away one's a lot thinner than the other. What is this thing? It's a lot fatter, a lot heavier than this line. This is the Scandi line, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
And this?
This is the Skagit, RIO's new Skagit Max. And yeah, that's the first observation that anyone would see is how thicker the Skagit line is compared to a shooting head.
Big difference.
Yeah, and the main reason for this thicker line is all about the turnover. And the advantages of a Skagit line is exactly that, in so much as turning over very heavy tips, such as, in this case, T14.
And what is T14? Is that like a Syncrate T14?
No, it's and a lot of people, you would naturally think that. T14 relates to, it's basically how many grains of tungsten in the actual line per foot.
Wow, so that's heavy.
Yeah.
It's a dumpy line, heavy front section. What kind of flies are you looking to fish on that?
For me, I mean, and the great thing about Skagit now is that it can be tremendously versatile. As an example, as I understand it, the Americans, they use Skagits for a lot of their season, and when the river isn't carrying that much water, the rods get shorter and the Skagits get lighter. Whereas typically in the UK, and certainly for myself, Skagit is really reserved for big water kind of conditions.
Flood conditions, would you say?
No, well, not necessarily, well, maybe flood, fishing in the sides maybe, but certainly when that water has just got that little bit fast and heavy for conventional fly lines. Really, when a spinner would be your only other option.
I see.
But you know, I really can't, for me, an absolute blank saver at certain times.
Yeah.
The great thing about such a system is obviously the ability to turn over faster sinking tips, literally turns over big flies like you haven't got a big fly on, especially in conjunction with thinner shooting lines such as grip shooter. It's the slowness of the speed which is a really advantage for me, because obviously the thing that you're trying to do with extra water is slow everything down. So a thick heavy Skagit with quite a fast sinking tip on the front of that, connected to thinner shooting line, is going to swing a lot slower than what.
Keep it in the zone a lot longer, I would imagine?
Absolutely, but keep the fly at the right speed in the zone for longer.
And that's
for
the key.
sure. Oh yeah, and also as well, the fact that it is essentially a sink tip, there's a lot more control with actual depth as well. If we imagine one of the downsides of a full sinking line is if we was to cast across a given pool, then that line is going to continually keep sinking. Whereas with a sink tip, should we maybe touch a snag into the bottom of the river, then we can simply lift the tip, speed it up a little bit, and then set it on course for a slow swing. Compare that if you was using, say, a full sinking line. As soon as you feel the bottom of the river, then you're stripping in fast to get the fly out of the way, which pretty much means that you've not really fished it that effectively.
Yeah, definitely. And leaders, I see you've got some leaders here, Jim. Is there a preference for you, especially with this line set up?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, leader length and thickness is something that I'm commonly asked. How long should the leader be? What breaking strain? And largely that is around the size of the flies that you're using. So as an example, if I was casting something like this Snelder of an inch copper tube, then I really would want to be no less than something like 16 pound, preferably around the 20 pound.
Yeah.
A great leader material such as Floraflex, it's very stiff, so that's also going to aid that turnover. In so much as length of the leader, again, there's no real point in going into a long leader because we're going to suffer turnover, but as a happy coincidence, we're not going to need a long leader at such depths anyway.
Yeah.
So it's natural, it's a good thing to shorten that leader down, right the way down to 4 to 5 feet.
So really, Jim, I guess, depending on the lightweight you're using, it's a very versatile fly line.
Yeah, certainly. When you look at it as a whole, from switch rods right the way up to 15 and 16 foot salmon rods, in essence, there's not many river situations that a Skagit wouldn't necessarily cover, providing that the fisherman chose the right weight of Skagit.
Absolutely spot on, Jim. Thanks for explaining that. You certainly cleared my mind a lot of questions that I had. Great stuff. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
So there you go. The Skagit, RIO Skagit lines, a great pick.